Welcome to AlphaCars, our Trabant segment. We've never had one this nice and this unusual. This is not only the car, it's the whole country history, the country that doesn't exist, the DDR. But we do have the piece of automotive history right here. And Roger is here with his Trabant, is part of the show here at AlphaCars.
Happy to be here.
Roger, thank you very much. We're going to turn around a little bit so we can see that this is not just a Trabant, but it's an estate wagon.
Right. Or
So-
a universal, as they like to call it.
Universal.
Universal, yep.
Yes. So, George, tell us, I know it's a long story, but tell
I'll
us
keep it short.
How did you end up with this automobile?
Through the power of capitalism, sir. I bought it on German eBay in 2016. I was looking for a car that I wanted to get back into antique cars. The American cars of my youth were a little bit out of my price range. A Trabant fit my price range.
As we talk, can we just get the camera going?
Sure.
We're going to look at things as we talk. May I open the door?
Please.
And I think this is authentic too.
Yes, that is a Türschöner,
Yes.
so that you don't hit another East German car driver's car. His very expensive, very time costly
Yes.
investment.
So,
Yeah, so what were you saying about how you acquired it? You had your story going.
yep.
No, basically that was it. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but for purposes of brevity, let's just say I bought it on eBay Germany and had it shipped over on a roll-on, roll-off ferry. And the seller was quite amused that I was going to bring a Trabant to America.
To the United States.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm still in contact with him 8 years later. And
Wow.
he's just amazed at the adventures this car has had since.
And it's an amazing condition. Did you expect it to arrive in this condition, or did you make it this beautiful, or made some improvements yourself?
Well, the main thing I did was kept the car as I received it. You got to remember the car is built in 1989.
Yes.
The woman that owned it, she bought it in 1977
Yeah.
and received it from the factory in 1989. That's how long it would take to get a Trabant.
1977.
Yep, 12 years later she got the car.
So they were getting them much faster than in the Soviet Union.
I am aware of that. Yeah, where you had maybe 1 in 10 people getting a car.
Well, that was
Yeah.
one of the 10 people that are very selected people. And
Indeed.
there were 240 million people. But in any case, back to the car, let's look at the engine compartment. And so this is a two-cylinder.
2-cylinder, 2-stroke, 594 cubic centimeters.
And it's got one leaf spring. We can see it right there.
Yep, a continuous leaf spring on the front. It's a half leaf spring, and it's usable for its independent suspension, as well as a guiding arms for the wheels.
And do you find it comfortable on the road?
Well, define comfortable. This was designed for a country where they were happy to have any kind of car.
Sure.
But I mean, it's comfortable enough. But I do tend to avoid potholes if I can.
We all do.
Yes.
I also speculated something about this car. So it has this
Shielding.
shielding from radio frequency.
Exactly, for the radio. It has.
So when Stasi listens to people in East Berlin, there is no interference from cars driving around. Would you agree?
I wouldn't be surprised, sir. I wouldn't be surprised. The Stasi were everywhere.
Yes.
Including their inoffizielle Mitarbeiter, their unofficial co-conspirators, for lack of a better term.
And I'm looking at Trabants, and I'm trying to figure out when they were trying to get people from East Germany. There are stories that they would fit them
Yes.
in the very front of the automobile.
The very front, the very back, they would hollow out seats and make people into seats. They would try everything. If you go to the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
they have very extensive exhibits on that.
I'm still puzzled. How do you fit a human being in the engine compartment that you can barely put your hands?
Number one, they don't tend to be quite as big as we are.
Okay.
They would remove the expansion chamber for the heater.
Yes.
They'd remove the air cleaner. They'd remove everything in here that wasn't needed. And they would have someone just crouch and hug the engine. It's a 2-stroke engine, so not quite as warm
Okay.
as a 4-stroke. So therefore, you could hug this engine. The noise would deafen you, but you would be free a few hours later if you'd bribed the border guards properly. It didn't happen very often. There were severe penalties for both the border guards as well as for anybody that tried to do that. But it did happen.
So your pronunciation, German pronunciation, is very good.
Ich bin in Deutschland groß gewachsen. Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch.
I got that part, so you speak German.
Natürlich.
Of
Yep.
course. So did that help you with your communication while buying this car?
It did, because all the communication was conducted in German. In fact, the fellow that was selling the car thought I was in Germany. He says, well, come by, take a look at the car. I said, that might be a little difficult. He said, why? I'm in Massachusetts. And he says, wait a minute, you mean like in America? And I said, why, yes, I am. And he says, ein Trabant in America. And he says, yeah, okay, well, we can make that happen. He was
Okay.
quite tickled that an American wanted to buy his car and ship it to America. He'd never envisioned that happening.
And for our viewers that are not as familiar with Trabants, if you were to take the top 5 distinctive features of this car that it has that other cars don't have, what would you say?
Well, number 1 out of 5, the car is made out of all recycled materials. You could say it is a green car. You've got cotton lint, phenol, and pine resin to make the body panels, made under pressure and high heat. You've also got recycled Russian steel, probably from recycled T-34s for all I know.
Okay.
Sheet steel coming from the Soviet Union and maybe some other countries.
Yeah.
But third actually, it's a very simple car. The engine has very few moving parts. There are almost no pumps in the car because number 1, it's air cooled.
Yep.
It has an oil gas mix because it is a 2-stroke.
So it is an oil gas mix. That's a
Yep.
nice feature.
Yes, it not a nice feature because for most people because there's a cloud of smoke which could come out the back, depending on the oil and gas used.
Does it have an oil sump?
No,
So that's why I said it's a nice feature. You don't have to do your typical frequent oil changes.
it's
always having an oil change.
it's self-changing oil, shall we say?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a nice feature. We'll put it number 2.
Sure.
So we now know that it has the
Radio shielding.
radio shielding.
Yep.
Not too many cars have it in the U.S.
And not too many cars even had radios back then. This is a
Yep.
deluxe model Trabant.
Yep.
Now I know a deluxe model Trabant Deluxe is a bit like jumbo shrimp. It's a contradiction in terms. It is a very simple, economical car, but it did come with a radio, an AM and shortwave radio receiver. 1 speaker, no stereo in this, but you could get nicer things to put in here. There were auto parts stores over there. The 1 speaker is on the shelf underneath the dash.
Okay, so it's kind of a hidden.
Yeah, it's down over towards the right.
Okay, cool.
And it's like a ball type speaker.
Yep. Oh, I see.
Very, very simple car. There were no glove compartments in these. Maybe because the Stasi or the Volkspolizei, when they pulled you over, they wanted to see what you had in there. But it was a very simple car designed to be easy to repair. And the big problem was there was a bottleneck in production of both the cars and the spare parts. Hence this car, the woman that bought it had to wait 12 years to get it. And she worked for the railroad, and you'd think she would have some pull with the railroad, but nope, she had to get in line with everybody else. I do know that these cars were given to stars, shall we say. Katharina Witt, the famous Olympic athlete, when she won her gold medal at the Olympics, she was given a brand new Trabant, which friends tell me she still has to this day. A nice baby blue Trabant.
She did pretty good because Yuri Gagarin,
Yes.
going to space, and when he returned, he received a Volga Gaz-24.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and a few clothing pieces too.
Yuri was, there was a true hero.
Yes.
He really was. What an amazing guy.
So it has a steering rack,
Yes,
which is
rack
kind
and
of
pinion.
innovative.
It's a rack and pinion steering like you see on a Triumph.
Yes.
It was done primarily because it was a safe space, a space-saving space-saving measure. Everything done in the car was put crosswise to make it so that you could put people inside the passenger compartment and put their legs in there.
And I can see another feature where the heating system feeds its air from the engine bay.
Yeah, in fact, that's the heater.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So if you have some kind of a disturbance in the engine that causes the smell, you will know right away. You don't need any warning lights or anything like that.
The main thing that's going to go wrong with the engine is you will break a fan belt.
Oh.
And when the fan belt goes, there's going to be a little white light on the dash which says, the engine's heating up too much, there's a problem, fix it. There were basic idiot lights in these cars. You've got one in the DeLuxe which says your fuel is getting low, time to put in some more fuel. And there's also a white light which comes on if your fan belt breaks. It was an early form of LED or LCD display.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we've gotten up to 3 special features.
The most important feature, electronic ignition from the factory. There's no distributor in this car. Yeah, it's got a rump distributor down there, and with a little platina, I forget what you call it, like a little, and it's a Hall effect electronic ignition.
Wow, they
Very
were
simple.
ahead of their time.
Yeah, you set it up, you use a timing light, get number 1, get number 2, screw it down, put it on, and the only other tune-up you might do is change the spark plugs every now and then.
Absolutely. And
Clean
that's
them off, especially with a 2-stroke. They get very, very dirty.
And I think for safety, it has a pretty cool thing. So it has a collapsible steering shaft,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it has a gas tank right here. So if you're in collision,
Well, it's like on a motorcycle. Nobody ever complains about the fact that
Yeah.
that the gas tank's between your legs.
yeah.
Oh.
So we've gotten that, and
Yeah, this has a firewall.
It does have.
Motorcycle doesn't.
Yeah, it does
Yep.
have a firewall. Also, when the wall came down, the German safety organizations conducted crash tests with these cars, and they found that in their price range, in their size range, these cars did very, very well in what was called the elk test. What would happen if your car hit an elk? Which is quite common in parts of Europe. You get these big wild animals. You would have had a better chance of surviving in a Trabant than you would in a Mercedes.
that is good to know.
Yeah.
So I think I found feature number 5 that this car has, and
Sure.
other cars in the US don't have. You have actually a work light under the hood.
It's a deluxe.
Yes.
That's why we have that. Otherwise you had like a little corded light that you'd
Yes.
attach to a little hot point under
And
there.
there's something else that I see. Instead of zip ties, they used
Oh, yeah.
metal. This is not a clamp. It's like a metal zip tie.
That's your gas gauge.
Oh, the gas gauge.
Okay,
Fact.
so we're number 6. We have a bonus feature. Check this out.
We do.
We have a bonus feature. This is gonna
This is how to check the gas on your.
Trabant.
You take off your and put this into the tank.
Yeah.
You stick the tank.
And with the German precision, we
Yep.
are measuring 10 liters.
Well, many years ago, I worked on a gas station, and at the end of the shift, you had to go out and stick the tanks.
Yes.
And I said to the gas station owner, I said, "Why don't you just use a fuel gauge?" He said, "Dipsticks never lie."
Yep. So
Therefore, we use a dipstick.
absolutely. So thank you very much for sharing.
My pleasure for sharing,
your,
Dimitri.
your purchasing experience, your ownership experience, a little bit of history on this particular car, and
Yeah.
certainly covering the features with us.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, sir. This is my piece of the Berlin Wall.
Absolutely, and that's the that's a good one.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.